Good evening, citizens of Louisburg, our council, and welcome to this special call meeting, zoning map amendment. I want to thank all of you for coming out this evening. And we'll begin by having our roll call, please.
Mayor Neal,
Here.
Councilman Stover,
Here.
Councilwoman Woods, Councilman Kingsley.
Here.
He never did this right. Councilwoman Wright, Councilwoman Baker, Councilman Roseby.
Okay. Okay, item number 2, invocation. Reverend Roseby, could I ask you to give us our invocation, please?
Let us pray. Eternal Father, we come to you and thank you for this day, and thank you for this season, this mental season. We thank you as we celebrate Christ, who will be crucified and rose from the dead on the third day. We thank you, Lord, for this Louisburg town. We ask your blessings upon us as we continue to lead and to guide, to do the best we can, Lord, for you. We thank you for all that you've done for the residents that are here on today. Ask your blessings upon them. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Okay. All about this pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. Item number 4, the adoption of tonight's agenda. Could I get a motion to adopt tonight's agenda?
Make a motion tonight to adopt tonight's agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we adopt tonight's agenda. All in favor? All opposed? Right on along. Item number 5. Council, could I get a motion to go into public hearing?
Make a motion that we go into public hearing. Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we open up and go into public hearing for zoning map amendment. All in favor? All opposed? Okay. Thank you, council. And we'll begin that by asking Mr. Satterwhite, would you come forward, please?
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor, members of the council, citizens of Louisburg. The rezoning that is before you is for a 9.37 acre parcel located at 0 Tanglewood Drive, tax parcel ID 015494. The applicant, Fairfield Homes, is requesting to rezone the above mentioned parcel to construct a multifamily development. The development is to be exclusively an independent senior living community featuring 1 and 2 bedroom units. The attached site plan highlights the residential development with a build out projection of a total of 46 units. Our 2030 plan identifies this area as the Bickett Boulevard Focus Area number 2, South Bickett. The comprehensive plan states the land use policy as higher density residential, including townhomes and condominiums, may be incorporated into mixed use development in the future if based on a site specific plan. The area should maintain the B2 and I2 zoning designations. Mixed use projects with residential uses may be supported. That said, the plan recommends this area remain mostly commercial as it is the main corridor of the town, but those projects with higher densities and mixed use plans would be supported. The zoning elements: to the north, there's highway business; to the east, low density residential and medium density residential; to the south, there's highway business; and to the west, highway business as well. The only use proposed for the development would be independent senior living facility. The town would like to maintain that use in perpetuity until revisited by either the developer or another outfit in the future. So the town would like to place conditions on the rezoning so that any change in use would require an amendment to their master plan and coming back for approval from the town council. The zoning elements for the plan development are in accordance with our Louisburg regulations of compliance for subdivision with lots and setbacks. They have a 25-foot perimeter buffer around the entire project, a 100-foot buffer from the banks of the Tar River. There will not be individual lots. They will have 1 and 2 bedroom proposed units with the 1 bedroom approximate average area of 664 square feet, 2 bedroom, 920 square feet. And the unit price point is estimated between $1,100 and $1,300. The project does set aside 3 areas of open space, which is dispersed around the north and east side of the project area. The project reserves, one area as beautified retention pond with benches for seating and viewing, 1 area as a landscaped back patio area, and 1 area as a gazebo surrounded by installed planter boxes for the residents. All open space areas will be connected by paved walking paths, with the exception of the gazebo in the front area. I believe that was a natural surface. The landscaping complies with the current zoning and subdivision regulations. 1 canopy tree per 40 feet of perimeter buffer and 2.2 to 5 shrubs per 30 feet of the same buffer are planned proposed for the project. The landscape buffer proposed will be adjacent to the existing Franklin County Farmers Market and Shannon Village Shopping Center. Throughout the rest of the project, there is property where existing vegetation will be sufficient for buffers. Pedestrian connectivity, the project proposes the entrance of the development will provide 5-foot wide setbacks on one side to enhance pedestrian connectivity and safety. Concrete sidewalks internal to the site will include ADA accessible ramps. The proposed development plans to construct slab on grade and utilize thickened slab when possible to minimize costs. These are architectural design controls. Strip footings and stem walls will be cast in place concrete. The masonry facade materials will be kept to a minimum. Per their rendering, there will be brick and then a hardy plank material applied to the front facade of the building. The most, it will be 50 to 60% brick in the front. In the back, there will be more of the hardy plank seam visible in the back, but that won't be visible from the road or highways. Again, planning elements, land use. The proposed use is planned development residential, which just allows the developer to prescribe some of the setbacks and site elements of the proposal. The access and circulation, the project proposes 1 internal road to the subdivision that is looped in the front of the proposed building. There's currently 1 proposed means of ingress dedicated to the subdivision, which is a right-in from Highway 401 North. The means of egress proposed is for residents to travel through the existing shopping center to the traffic light at Wade Avenue and Highway 401 North. The developer has initiated talks with the owner of the shopping center to secure an easement and attempt petition to DOT for more right-of-way for the purposes of adding right out of the subdivision. I'll let the developer speak a little bit more to that point. But the parking proposes 59 stalls and 10 of which will be ADA compliant. The proposed access and circulation for the site are adequate for this type of development proposed. There will be 3 floors. Each floor will have around 16,000 square feet. The first 2 floors include 3 ADA units, and the 3rd floor will include 6 ADA units. Total 1 bedroom count is 28. Total 2 bedroom count is 18. The developer proposes the project will be served by the town of Louisburg for water and sanitary sewer, both of which have been verified with Public Works. We do have capacity for the proposal. Electric power is available to serve the site as well, but Duke is in close proximity, and developers/projects have the choice between us and Duke within 300 feet. The staff does support the proposed application with the condition that some level of agreement is reached between the adjacent owner of the shopping center in order to have a dedicated means of ingress and egress. The use of planned development residential is appropriate for the applicant to achieve the amount of density and site controls that this type of project proposes. The proposed use of master plan development is consistent with the 2030 comprehensive plan, as the proposed project layout does serve the South Pickett focus area and will respond to the need for senior housing in the area. I have a brief PowerPoint presentation. Talk Road Senior Apartments, still Tanglewood Drive, the zoning request. The proposal area is, again, adjacent to Pickett Boulevard, adjacent to Shannon Village Shopping Center. It is highlighted with the light blue color. There is one means of ingress in the middle of the shopping center between the Goodwill and the new chiropractor's office. That would be the means of ingress. The means of egress would be, again, to Wade Avenue, across from Sheets. This is a closer view of the parcel, 9.37 acres. Again, the parcel sits as a vacant lot, with the exception of the Franklin County Farmers Market, in which the developer proposes to maintain the farmers market in perpetuity as of now, to allow the residents of the senior living facility to frequent the market, as well as any of the residents of Franklin County. The PDR, this is from an excerpt from our zoning ordinance. It just mentions the PDR and just says that it is a conditional district designed to encourage a range of residential housing types. The PDR district is a conditional district that may be applied in any future land use category, provided the overall residential density of the proposed uses are consistent with the established future land use category in this section. The area requirement, it has to be, to establish a PDR, has to be a minimum of 8 contiguous acres, which they do meet that requirement. The uses permitted in a PDR conditional district are those designated in the approved master site plan and written development description. That speaks back to the town wanting the developer to agree to conditions that we have proposed, such as maintaining the senior living facility as the only use for this proposal, and then some other conditions that I'll mention a little bit later. The maximum number of permitted dwelling units and percentage of the development allocated to non-residential uses would be the density and intensity limits. The maximum residential density shall be 6 dwelling units per acre with a PDR. 10% of the total project land area may be used and developed for non-residential uses. This is outside of the water critical observation area and water protected observation area district as well. This is more information on the PDR. I wanted to mention the open space. At least 10% of the project area will be dedicated as common open space. If common open space is to be deeded to a homeowners association, the owner or developer shall file a declaration of covenants, just making sure that that open space remains open space. The open space may not be sold or subdivided at any time. Just vested rights run with the land. Any approval on the land and any open space that is set in their master plan must stay in perpetuity. A 25-foot wide setback is required along the development's project interior property lines, which the developer has proposed as well. I brought up a density calculation. So max density is 6 dwelling units per acre. Max calculations, 6 times 9.37, the total acreage, 56.22, resulting in 56 units allowed. So according to the PDR, we can have a max of 6 dwelling units per acre. But also, according to our comprehensive plan, the comprehensive plan states that also 3 to 6 dwelling units per acre may be utilized. I wanted to bring this point because the PDR is a conditional district. By right, according to the calculations, they could pretty much get 50 to 56 units by right as well. So again, that speaks to by right versus special conditions. I'm gonna get to that in just a second. This is our table of permitted uses. Multifamily by right is permitted in the B2 district. Follow the green line to the circle with limited conditions, meaning that any developer in any time can come and build a multifamily project on that parcel because it is zone B2, as long as they follow the limited conditions. The limited conditions are just open space and recreation requirements. It just says 15% of the development's gross tract acreage must be set aside for open space. That open space must be 30 feet across its narrowest dimension, and 50% of that 15% must be developed for active recreational purposes, like swing sets, playgrounds, things where you do active recreation. So 15% must be set aside for open land. 50 of the 15 must be set aside for active recreation, which the developer has done. The other limited requirement for multifamily is residential building separation. With just one building proposed in this developer's proposal, that requirement is completely eliminated, so to speak, because there is just one building. So they don't need to separate the building. But if someone did this by right, these are the by right limitations. So these by right limitations would apply to any other project that is not master planned or conditional district such as this one. So by right versus special use, I wanted to speak to that for a second. By right, from section 21.334 of our zoning ordinance, zoning permits certify that a proposed use is permitted by right in the applicable zoning district and complies with the applicable regulations of this chapter. Zoning permits do not require a legislative or quasi-judicial hearing before issuance. So as I was saying, if someone wanted to come build a multifamily project here, they could do so with just administrative approval from me. They would not have to come to the town council for administrative approval. Conventional districts, section 21.341, the town is divided into various agricultural, residential, business, industrial, and resource conservation zones. Each district contains uses permitted by right uses, permitted by right subject to specified development standards, and as special uses. Uses permitted by right or by right with specified district requiring only zoning administrator approval. So with the conditional districts, it allows the developer to list those uses by right, and then those uses are then the by right uses for that district. With this proposal, we only want one use by right, which is independently living facility, which gives the town the control to say this will remain an independent senior living facility for as long as it's open until the developer or owner comes back to the town council and asks for more uses. Without that control, again, any developer can come build a multifamily project here. Again, the site means of ingress there, the right in only. That means egress, which would be out of the development across the parking lot to the light at Wade Avenue. These are just some of the project elements mentioning the square footage, the different types of bedrooms, the number, total number, which is 46 again. The project elements, it just talks about project amenities, covered picnic area, outdoor sitting area, fitness room, resident computer center, community room, multi-purpose room, tenant storage area, indoor seating area, and then just general notes about ADA compliance and some of the ADA units. Site elements, the active area calculation, I wanted to bring attention to that. That's what I was talking about a few minutes ago. 50% of 15, 7.9% of gross acreage. So 8.98 gross acres times 7.9% is 0.87 acres. They need to provide a total of 0.87 acres of open space. They did do that. They have 0.73 acres of active open space. So they went above the active requirement. This just speaks to the plant chart of the plant materials proposed here for those trees set in the perimeter buffer, the 25-foot perimeter buffer. There will be eastern redbuds, coral beds, woodard priaps trees, dogwood, gentiles, creeping jenny would be ground cover. This is the front and rear elevation of the proposed development. The front, again, with the brick coming up to the second level. The rear with mostly hardy plank in the back that you see there. But again, that would not be visible from the roadway 401. Now, this section is in response to comments, opposition that staff has received. NCDOT prescribes what happens on 401. The town cannot require the developer to make traffic improvements on 401 because it is a DOT maintained highway. However, according to state statutes, we can require them to implement traffic improvements within the site. So within the shopping center, the town council can address those concerns and make recommendations for traffic improvements there inside the site. This is from the 2019 DOT public hearing meeting in which DOT plans road improvements for 401. This was brought up a few times. This again is from 2019. DOT has recently funded this project, which is R-3608, in which they will be making improvements to 401 Bickett Boulevard. The red line in the middle there, they will change Bickett from a 4-lane facility to a 4-lane divided facility. So there'll still be 4 lanes, but Bickett Boulevard will be divided from Art Boulevard up to, I believe it is Johnson Street. The light there at Wade Avenue from 2019 does not have a planned roundabout. There are roundabouts planned, but there is not one planned for Wade Avenue. However, the yellow color you see there leading into the shopping center and going along Bickett is a road widening. Go back to the legend, proposed roadway. So they are proposing to widen that roadway there. So while it doesn't address the traffic concerns directly, it will have an impact in the ease of traffic, in staff's opinion, is that the roadway will be widened so that the bottlenecking that occurs there at Wade Avenue at the light may be relieved some, probably not completely. But again, this is a independent senior living facility, and traffic impacts are expected to be minimized because those seniors will not travel at those peak times of the day, AM, PM, peak times where traditionally people are going to work, school, different things of that nature.
Harry, you said that they're going to petition the DOT for another egress.
Yes, that's what the developer.
Where would they be putting that?
I'll let the developer speak to that because I just don't know exactly what they've planned since the last meeting. But yes, they did say that they would petition DOT for those improvements. This is just a closer zoom in of those improvements that DOT has planned. Again, the red you see at the top is the divided median. The yellow color is a road widening. The green color is just the proposed right-of-way extending. They do not have plans for the means of ingress, but the means of egress, again, the road will be widened a bit there. That is the end of staff presentation. Now, this time, I'd like the developer to come up and give their presentation.
Thank you, Terry. I appreciate the synopsis and going through our proposal. I want to thank the mayor and the council members again for the opportunity to come back and to work with my schedule. I know this is a special hearing for a reason. As you all are aware, after our last conversation, we are under a certain timeline when it comes to our finances. So again, I do appreciate this opportunity to come back and get the feedback of the local community. One of the things I do want to speak to with new participants here in the audience today, and I apologize if this is a bit repetitive from the last time, but I think it's important that everyone gets to hear a little bit about who we are and our plans here in Louisburg. So Fairfield Homes, we've been around for 75 years. Started out in single-family home business in Ohio, building housing for veterans coming out of World War II. Since then, we've continued to expand and grow our business, where right now we are predominantly and heavily focused on affordable housing projects using the low-income housing tax credit. We do a bit of their market rate as well, but our bread and butter is definitely these projects here that we're proposing today in Louisburg. When it comes to how we arrive at Louisburg, one of the criteria that we always look at is the potential growth of communities and where that growth is expected to lead to in the near future. One of the exciting aspects to Franklin County and Louisburg in particular is that growth pushing out from Raleigh. You can see here one of the fastest growing segments is the 65 plus demographic. We feel that there is a heavy demand and need for this type of housing for seniors who are looking to downsize. Since our last meeting, we have obtained a market study from the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency. They actually commissioned their own market studies, and it all but just proved our theory and supported our proposed rent structure as well as demand profile for this community. So we feel really good about the strong nature of this community and its potential growth potential. When it comes to our site specifically, we looked at it for two separate reasons. One, we were trying to minimize traffic impact into existing neighborhoods. Understanding anytime you bring in denser housing, it creates traffic concerns and questions, which I'm happy to address here today. We felt that being next to the shopping center, coming directly onto Pickett Boulevard there, results in the minimal impact possible to the Sandalwood community and other neighborhoods in the area. In addition to that, the owner of the Shannon Village Shopping Center was very supportive of additional housing around that shopping center, and one of the reasons that we feel confident in coming to an agreement with them. We've already discussed that and negotiated with them as to what this might look like. Fairfield Homes develops both general occupancy, which we call family, as well as senior / plus 55 housing. This is an example of a recently completed project in a community not unlike Louisburg in Ohio. It's about 45 minutes outside of Columbus. This is actually a two-phase community with 90 units. And it's obviously fully leased up in probably about 3 or 4 months. This is an example of a walk-up townhome structure community that we have planned east of Cincinnati in Ohio. This is for general occupancy. Obviously, our proposal here today is going to serve seniors, so it's an elevator 3-story building versus a walk-up or a townhome style structure. This is another example of a new senior community that is actually going to be completed here in June. Otherwise, I would have completed photos here. But this includes 95 units in Lancaster, Ohio, which is our home base, and sits about 45 minutes outside of Columbus, Ohio. This is an example of an urban infill project that we did in the city of Columbus. This is for family or general occupancy with 74 units. And now I can specifically speak to what we proposed here in Louisburg. So when we met with our architects, we really always try to first incorporate existing housing stock and existing feel of community. There is a lot of variation within Louisburg, and there's obviously not as much 3-story multifamily that we're proposing here today. So we try to incorporate different architectural features. The architect essentially arrived at this design here, which kind of blends a little bit of a Georgian style roof line architectural features into our proposal. We always try to break up the mass of a project either through bump outs, as I like to call them, or bump ins, as well as different building materials. So what you're seeing there is essentially a brick overlay along with what we refer to as hardy plank cement siding on the top there. The parking and all of the shrubbery is obviously a significant component of this project. As Terry mentioned, it does meet parking requirements, but it also, in our mind, meets the actual parking need of our residents, allowing for 1 spot per unit, as well as guest parking for the I'm going to circle back to the site plan here. Again, as Terry mentioned, we always incorporate different features to break up the mass, but one of the things that we try to incorporate and think about is how our buildings are actually viewed within the community and its neighbors, while also taking into account a cost-effective build approach. So what you see there is obviously a higher density of brick on the front, facing Pickett Boulevard and more public facing, where the back we did remove a lot of that brick. That, full disclosure, is a simple way to save on cost, especially on the side of a building that is going to be up against the forest grove and not visible other than to our residents who would be enjoying the patio space to the rear of the building. Just touching really quickly on our units, as Terry mentioned, we do include accessible units within our facility. That's a requirement. All of our units are going to have Energy Star appliances, and the building itself will be built to the LED LEED Silver certification. It's important for us to try to mitigate the impact on utility costs for the residents, as well as the utility usage on the providing facilities. Now, if I can circle back to what I think is probably going to be a lot of the questions here today, or just feedback I know I received last time through our conversation. But before I get into that, I do want to call out two things from our last conversation. I do not yet have the traffic study back here today. That's expected middle of April. So we're thinking 2 to 3 weeks out. One of the updates I do have, other than the market study, is that we received preliminary scoring feedback or preliminary site feedback from the housing agency, and great news that we received a perfect score. So we feel confident about moving forward now, proceeding with our full application, which is due in May, and which is a reason that we called for this meeting, so that we have zoning appropriately timed to allow for architectural plans to advance. This timeline essentially puts us at a situation where we would submit a final application in May. They would then notify us if we received those tax credits come August. That's when you would really start to see our planning and work pick up, where we would engage sub-architectural designs from engineers, landscape, MEPs, and so forth. That would put us on a timeline for a spring construction start for the project from a best case scenario. While navigating that financing process and understanding the risk still that we may not receive those funds, again, we won't have 100% surety until August. We still are trying to alleviate or address some of the concerns that the community has, but also that we have surrounding ingress-egress issues. So our engagement with the Department of Transportation is really centered around focusing on the allowance of a right turn out of our current ingress-only entrance into our community. So essentially, we're trying to see if we could incorporate a right turn at that Goodwill donation station out onto Pickett Boulevard. Terry, if I'm not mistaken, are you saying that that roundabout is not on the table anymore?
Yes, according to the last talk that we had, yes, it would be a traffic light.
So we are still in communication with them. So we're going to basically put it to them as to what do they think is the best solution right now. If it was a roundabout, then we were thinking that right turn would suffice. But if it's not, we're going to have to incorporate other ideas and thoughts from them as to how they think this is best to work. However, that being said, in our conversation to date and what we've seen in other cities as well, actually going through a commercial use such as the shopping center could be a viable path. One of the things that we've talked about from an improvement perspective with the owner is potentially defining that path right in front of the donation center a little bit more clearly, whether that be curbs along the end of those parking zones or other design elements or features that make that feel more like an actual road versus just helter-skelter ingress-egress point. At all costs, we're trying to avoid any idea of going around the shopping center. I can tell you, quite frankly, when I was driving through there and thinking about ways to get out of there, that's what I did. So I'm concerned of what might result in that. But that's really our plan right now, is to try to address how that feels and how that actually works going out of the shopping center through that with the owner. That is the fallback, and that's probably the last issue or the last phase that we would basically end up at if the Department of Transportation says there's nothing else we could do with regards to Pickett Boulevard. But we want to try to find a solution to that route as best as possible if we can. Unfortunately, that's all I have at this time, and that's where we'll need to continue to progress it with these conditions as we move forward. I do want to call out a little bit more clearly the farmers market, the county farmers market spot. You can see here that this red line differs from the actual parcel outline shared by Terry. That is because the owner of the shopping center is actually going to maintain that parcel, and it's going to be separated out from our plans. So it's not going to be us that has to ensure the longevity of that. It's their intention to, and we want it there obviously as well. It's our design to kind of support that look in that area. But that is going to be outside of our control and outside of our parcel when it's all said and done. The other aspect we really tried to incorporate, as Terry mentioned, being a planned development, is to incorporate the active space with that gazebo as well as the walking paths. The walking paths essentially create a full circular path around the building to benefit from the forest grove in the back, as well as a walking path down to the potential retention pond, which is actually a pretty good drop from where the building would sit along that tree line. This design really took into account existing conditions while also trying to mitigate and minimize the removal of trees as much as possible. Obviously, when we get to the site and actually start to build and construct the building, and we get civil engaged, all that will become more clear, but that's our intention, is to maintain the current tree growth as much as possible. One, it's going to be a good asset for the community, but two, it's also a good buffer for the neighbors, given our 3-story structure. It's going to be taller than those structures in the community. I do just want to call out lastly the easement that we're navigating and ensuring that we're maintaining a distance from along the south there around Tar River. That is a water and sewer line as far as we are aware. And so no work or no builds will be able to take place on that, and that's why we're showing a plan accordingly. With that, I'm happy to address questions here. I'm also happy to come back up if there are public questions that I can address, but I'll leave it to you.
Okay, thank you. First, are there any questions from the council?
Yes, sir. So there's a couple things that you said that kind of touched a note with me. One of the things you talked about was a proposed plan. So that sounds like there's room for adjustments in there, flexibility, because the plans are fluid at this point. What does that look like in perspective of that, especially the exterior, because we have residents here who will be living next to that facility, and obviously their biggest investment is their home, as all of us. So how does that, what are they going to be looking at? I understand that you talked about, the hardy back on the rear of the building, but is there room for that to change? Are you guys stuck on that plan? Is that where you are?
I wouldn't say we're stuck on it. We're at a point where we actually put to the Housing Finance Agency these plans. That doesn't mean they can't be altered from a potential exterior material perspective, but that needs to take place now before this May 14th submission. Having said that, they have certain design standard requirements so that you're not over designing affordable housing and then costing more money. Right. So we're more than willing to listen and hear other ideas and concepts. But I will say that I do feel like our material selections, being brick and actual hardy plank versus like a vinyl, I do feel like we're at least meeting that objective, but we do have some flexibility there from an exterior material perspective. But I don't think we have the flexibility at this point to say less units, less height. That would essentially take us out of the financing.
Yeah, I think you guys have gone above and beyond, with the standards of taking into consideration, what this looks like. My main concern is for our citizens that are living next there, how it affects them. What does that look like? And, also I touched base last time on the last meeting was, the safety perspective. Coming in and out of that area there is a traffic nightmare, to put it lightly. From 4 to 6 p.m. it's chaos to get in and out. It's not a fun area. I worry about our fire department, police department, being that it's a senior, living facility. Obviously we're going to have needs for ambulance and, fire possibly for rescue coming in and out of that, those kind of things that, you know, I would trust the professionals, you know, they know what they're doing. But going through that parking lot worries me. That's one of my biggest concerns. I trust our teams beyond all belief. You know, but I mean, this just is something that it's on my radar. I have to be honest with you.
And to the point of what you're saying, I think that's one of my issues too, that even if they're coming out, that traffic right there at that light, and the traffic backing up into the parking lot, into the plaza, during those peak hours. I know that they're gonna be senior residents, but I think that is one of my main concerns, especially when they're coming out and they're coming down the hill at that light, and you have traffic that's gonna be backed up into the parking lot of the plaza, and people already go through that light and rush through it, and half of them don't stop at the red light. So, that's one of my biggest concerns, would be the traffic impact of that area, because it's already bad now. And adding 48, 50 more people, it's gonna I think it's gonna make it a little bit worse. But however, 48 is okay compared to 100 or 200. That if we don't say yes to this, and then somebody else come in and have 100 or 200, and then if we out of luck. So I totally understand what you're saying with that.
Yeah, I agree with Councilman DeLeo on that too. I mean, I think you guys are doing everything you can, and I appreciate it personally myself. You know, the people elected us to make sure that we're watching out for their best interest. You know, so please don't feel like we're trying to give you a hard time in any kind of way. We're just, you know, taking this into consideration. How that affects everybody. You know, and so speaking of that, you know, screening requirements. Maybe Terry, you can answer on this. Screening requirements for the rear of the facility. There was a point where you brought up a tax map that was up there, and it was like 01887. So somebody's residential lot is right there on the rear of that buffer. Is there any way that we could pull that map up real quick and just look at the layover? Would that be able to easily accessible at all, or?
James, can you pull back on my presentation?
Because my concern is the screening elements, you know, trees, et cetera. The plan I'm hearing the front facade plan, you know, what do we talk about in the rear, you know, facing that? There's one thing looking at the front of a building, it's a whole nother story when you're looking at the rear of a building. That could be very.
Oh, yeah, it's the same.
Yeah, no, it was a little bit further back. Yeah.
So the residential lot there. In the back, in the rear.
So right through this area here,
On that side.
yeah, on this side here is where I have concerns about screening, you know, for the citizens.
The 25-foot perimeter buffer will be around the perimeter of the entire development. Within that buffer, they will be planting trees within that buffer where there are no trees. So if there's a bunch of existing vegetation on the backside there, as you can see, but there may be a small space there at the northeast corner where they may have to plant vegetation. And that's per ordinance requirement, so they would have to plant them there if there was no existing vegetation there.
Yeah, 01817, right down the rear down there. So that would be a large vegetation there.
Yes, that's completely vegetated, that area down there. You cannot see from that side up to the front where the development would be. You would be able to see the top of the building, yes, that is true. But they, honestly, from the town's perspective, we can't require them to put in trees that are as tall as the building.
Right,
So
yeah.
to speak. But yes, the existing vegetation should cover it there, and anywhere where there is not existing vegetation in that 25-foot perimeter buffer, they will plant spring with the trees mentioned here on that list. Here we go, plant chart.
And just make sure we're all on the same page too, our current building location does not incorporate, it's basically in that open mode area. It's not actually in that tree line. So we're not planning to take out any of those existing trees.
questions?
One of the key things to minimize the impact of traffic is gonna have to be some kind of separation between parking and the
And,
passage for the cars. And it's got to be more than just a line, it's gonna have to be a curve or something along that line. Because right now, you got cars just shooting across there from every angle, myself included, you know, after I pick up my Chinese dinner. But you understand what I'm saying there, right?
Is that on the right when you come in off of Bickett, that little like intersection?
No, I'm talking about as you go through the parking lot over to the.
Going across past the donation center.
Right, that right turn.
You're gonna need to have a curve there.
That was the additional.
In
concept.
fact, probably would minimize direct access to that from the parking. Make people have to go out and come out the main entrance straight to the traffic light instead of coming out onto that egress.
There's a county office there in that plaza as well.
And they use the same egress.
Can we address that question? What was the question? Are we allowed to?
We have to wait till
You finish.
public comment.
And then some, if,
Respond after all.
yes, and also I want to include the citizens, if they have any questions as well.
Is that a condition that we can add to this? And if we did, would that make a problem for you?
So that's, I need to make sure I understand exactly where you are proposing the
Maybe I
curve
can
to
scoot
be.
up here and show you.
Because if it's just along the parking bays, that's one thing.
Right up along here.
Yeah.
We want to block all that off. So the exit from this parking area, we would have to come out and come out this way at the traffic light. You wouldn't have people coming out, and that would make this more of a corridor. All right. If you leave this open, you're gonna have a lot of cross traffic coming out, interfering with the traffic coming in and out from this development.
That's fair. I can tell you right now, the only concept that we put in front of the actual owner is just those parking bays and having curb at the end of those parking bays to make that a more defined path. I have a hard time believing he's going to like the idea of restricting the accessibility of that parking lot. I think that's gonna prove more difficult.
Well, at the bare minimum, they're gonna need to be stop signs.
And that's where I think, you know, when we actually have these conversations with not only our traffic engineer for our traffic study, but also for our transportation, that's where, okay, well, what is the next best option? I'm not ready to present what the next best option here is today, but that's what we're going to try to result in as well. I just can't tell you what that is, and I can't tell you right now that the current owner is probably gonna be receptive to that. I could put it in front of them, but I can't guarantee that.
Probably to the biggest benefit to that, I would say, is like the majority of the traffic is down at Carly C's. Franklin County offices.
Right now.
Yeah, right now. Yeah, correct. I would agree with you. Franklin County offices are in the mid-range. That's a temporary space for them currently.
Hopefully.
Oh, yeah, correct. You know, I would say we're definitely in a position, as Terry brought up, you know, if we don't allow this,
I'm not,
We've got-
I'm all for.
you know,
the
we've got
project.
another plan
Don't get me
coming in.
wrong.
And I think
I'm just
it's,
trying to,
yeah,
you know, make it as safe as possible for the traffic.
I agree. But yeah, that's,
And if we can't do it, we can't do it. I guess the best thing we can do is strongly encourage the owner of the.
and two things can be right, you know, with the traffic and the safety and if we don't agree on this and the afraid of something else bigger coming, that we're not gonna have control over. And this is more, we have a more say and control over this project. However, it does need to be safe for the citizens coming in and out. It does, that's, like I said, again, that's one of my biggest things. It needs to be safe.
And just let me say this one point, I don't want to beat this to death here, but, the citizens' needs to be safe is exactly the needs of our residents as well. It's not, we're looking for the same objective here. It's just, I don't have all the ideas. I'll take all the ideas we can get. We just don't have a solution.
I mean, this kind of a setup is likely to increase the likelihood of accidents, but they also will be likely low speed, more fender benders, not the kind of thing that gets people hurt.
Mayor, can we hear from some of the citizens?
Yeah, that's the next
Okay, I'm
thing. This
sorry.
is a public hearing.
Yeah.
So council has questions and then I'll defer to anyone in the audience. Anyone have any questions?
I just have a few comments, questions. The traffic thing bothers me.
Ma'am, could I ask you to come to the front? And give your name and address as well, please.
Christina Nelms Stratner, my address is 107 Triple Crown Run. I'm here on behalf of my parents who live on 213 Haywood Drive. The problem, I don't have one problem with this whole residence thing, except for the fact that they're also planning to put those townhomes behind it. So if you take the amount of people from the townhomes and the amount of people from this retirement home, that's a lot of traffic you're putting in that one little area. Nobody can answer the traffic questions we have about the townhomes. Nobody can answer the traffic questions we have about this. That's going to be a big issue for everybody because everybody knows people cross over back there to go to the daycare, to go to the DMV. They drive 90 miles an hour, get out of the way. You got people coming from the apartments back there. Then you're going to add another however many that you're trying to put townhomes plus this. It's not just about the one thing. And these people, I think I heard you say 1 car per apartment. Well, if it's a 2-bedroom apartment, what if they have 2 cars? Are they going to overflow into the parking lot for Carly C's and start parking over there? Where are they going to park? Where are these people from the townhomes going to park? I think the citizens need to know, overall, conclusive, where are all these people going to go? When I came in, because I work in Raleigh, when I came in today, I went right up towards their house, went up the Goodwill Way, made a left. Guess what? I could not turn to come down the hill because so many cars were coming down the hill. The lady across from me who had the right of way, she couldn't turn. So she had to wait. Then I had to wait for her. That's with like 5 cars in that lane. 5 cars, and you're going to add another 50 over here and another however many on the townhome side. That has not been decided yet, right? We're still discussing that.
No decision.
Yes, right. But it went from 40 some or whatever to 70 some, plus then another 50 some cars that you're putting in this one area. And if you've lived in Louisburg and you've shopped in that shopping center, you know it's like you're dodging bullets every time you drive through there. Which way's that person coming? How fast are they going? There's no anything on the pavement. It's kind of shoddy if you ask me, but I'm just saying, all of this traffic stuff needs to be kind of taken care of. And why is Louisburg or Franklin County not doing any traffic studies? I find a huge conflict of interest with the companies who are wanting to come here being the ones doing the traffic studies. Because I think the town of Louisburg ought to be more interested in what the traffic study would say and make sure that it's not going the way that the developer wants it to go, but it's going the way of the citizens who have lived here. My parents are 85, almost. Sorry, I added a year. But you know what? They drive at 5 o'clock because he's got to have dinner at 5 o'clock. He's going to be out there in that mess because I heard a comment made before about these people, these ages weren't going to be out then. Yes, they are. They're out when the daycare people are out. They get up before I do. So, I mean, you can't say that that age group's not going to travel or that they're going to be in the cars and they're going to drive slow through the parking lot. That's not the case. I think you probably could do some research to find out that people who are elderly sometimes have more accidents than other people, and they may be at lower speeds. I mean, I don't think you can just say, well, they're not gonna be driving as fast through the parking lot, because that's not scientific. That's stereotypical, not scientific. So I would just ask that you look at a conclusive measure of what you guys are trying to do to try to figure out who all's gonna have what traffic pattern, what is gonna happen to the residents already there. The man who lives beside them has lived here since those new houses he bought it brand new. Guess what? For sale. He's gone. Their neighbor has moved because he doesn't want to deal with this mess. So, I mean, I would just say, as residents and citizens, yes, Louisburg is growing, but you need to grow at a speed you can control and not grow at a speed that we can't support. You know, you gotta have places to eat, you gotta have restaurants. My God, you gotta have an actual hospital that, you know, can deliver babies and whatever. If you're growing and you're bringing people in, you've gotta have the support system underneath it. Thank you.
You make a very valid point, Ms. Very valid point.
Mr. Satterwhite, how many homes would we, can you paint a picture for us if we, and just so we all understand it, if this wasn't even something that was on the table, somebody wanted to come forth and they wanted to put in a bunch of homes, you know, a couple duplexes and stuff like that, like what's the number that we could realistically be looking at?
If someone were to do this buy right.
Buy right. What's our buy right number?
It depends because it speaks to the dimensional standards.
Okay.
So really, honestly, as much as they can fit within those dimensional standards, which then the building separation comes back into play, different elements. So I would assume somewhere between 40 and 80 units.
So we're talking anywhere from the same number to possibly double,
Possibly more.
possibly 2 to 3 more cars.
Right.
You know, which we understand currently right now, like, you know, people are gonna have visitation. There's gonna be people who are gonna, you know, they're gonna want to visit mom and dad and, you know, all that stuff. So, I mean, there's some good questions that are brought up, you know, regarding the parking. Have we had that discussion with the owner, like what that looks like? Are you guys gonna be your head's gonna be put on the chopping block for taking over more parking, going into the adjacent area, farmer's market, et cetera?
Yeah, go ahead.
So what I can speak to right now and why we arrived at this number, we could actually add some parking spots if need be in this design, go a little bit further to the west there of that design. But whenever we build these projects, and we build a number of these senior projects, yes, there are 2-bedroom units, but usually that's a couple. And if they have 2 cars, they're also, we expect about 30% of these residents not actually even have a car. So that's where we arrive at the number of at least 1-to-1 is more than sufficient. Usually 0.75 to 0.8 is where we see the need. Every market's unique, every market's different. I don't have a list of potential applicants, right?
Yeah.
But that's where we get these numbers as to what's needed and what's not.
So in your experience, this generally is adequate parking,
Yes.
this age group?
Like I said, 0.75 to 0.8 is more like bare bones, but 1 is usually healthy enough where we have access.
Terry, how many units are coming with the townhomes that Ms. Clem spoke about? How many units are coming with that?
The townhomes application was withdrawn, so they must go back through the entire rezoning process, in which they first have to go to the planning board and then to you all again for the town council. Since last speaking with them, they have proposed to reapply with 68 units. Again, that's something that the town really has no control over, how many units they propose. But we do have a mechanism to limit and cap the number of density on a project like that, especially after approving a project such as this. We say already we have 46 units there at the front, here 401. So this development, already the 68 units in the rear and all in the residential neighborhood was too much. So.
And have we, as a town, done a traffic impact analysis of this whole area? Not just right here, but that whole area, even behind there with apartments and daycare and the doctor's office? Have we did a complete traffic analysis on this whole area?
We are not, no.
Is there a way that we as a town can,
Typically, according to our ordinance, we require developers. So it's their cost responsibility, it's their responsibility to perform the TIA. And if, in this instance, since it was not completed, town council has the power to table the proposal until TIA is completed.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes, you may stand up, please. And
Sorry, I thought I was loud enough, everybody can hear. So if, as you say, the developer is the one, because we want them to have the cost of doing the traffic study.
I don't want to be rude, but I'm not allowed to directly respond to the questions. I have to see and pose questions to council and council.
Based on what he just said, if we ask the developer to do the traffic study, can you just do the traffic study and have the developer pay for that? So you know that the study is not one-sided in their favor?
I don't think legally they can lie about that. I mean,
No.
that's right.
I understand, I hear you, and I
I think it's a conflict of interest,
I understand.
which, I mean, in many businesses, you don't do your own audits.
Right.
Because whether it's legal or not, we know things get done. So I'm just saying, I mean, would that be something that would be possible, would be for the town to do their own survey of what we need?
Terry, is something like that possible?
No, that's
I just want to speak to traffic impact analysis are
Owned
performed
by
by certified agencies. So they must stamp and certify those traffic impact analysis.
that's right.
In which case, there is no line because it's someone else's career on the line.
So
They
you're-
certify the state.
So you're saying they're a third-party
They're a
entity,
third party entity.
just as if an architect or an engineer, they have to have their own private stamp, and if they falsify information, they could be legally held
But
responsible.
I'm asking the question because when we were here for the townhomes proposal, we discussed how is that traffic study gonna be done? And he said, literally, I sit in the truck and count 1, 2, 3.
He said that.
If nobody is sitting with him, if you're from the town and you're not sitting with him, you're trusting he didn't miss a car? We don't have video backing up how many cars have crossed, or like, you know, when the state does it and they put the little counter thing down on the ground or whatever that little thing is, everybody's running over. I mean, we can't do that. I'm just saying,
Well, we
This is done by a professional.
yes,
It's not been done by the developer. It's done by a professional who the developer has to pay, but the professional has to certify it. And he's putting his reputation,
on the line.
his career on the line.
so he is not a member of the
No.
company that
This
the
is a
developer
separate-
works for.
It's just like if we
Okay,
wanted
because
to.
when he answered at that last meeting, he said, literally, we just sit in the truck and count. That's what he said. I'm sure y'all have it on. I'll check.
Go ahead.
Can we require him to get a certified company to do this?
And if so, what are the costs?
Well, they will be getting, you have your person to do that as well, right?
Yeah, so we have one in process, and I'm more than happy to share that. So what I will say is you guys are considering whether or not to table this, just since that was brought up. One of the concerns I have with that is our timeline. And I believe, Terry, I apologize if I'm misrepresenting, but I'm pretty sure I had this communication where when we submitted this proposal back in the end of January, it was not required at that time. Later on, I think it was after the planning commission meeting, we talked about it and it was advised that we order one. So we have ordered one, we're still waiting on that to come back. So that's where I would say it's a third party vendor. It's not our own internal. I'm not gonna be out there counting cars myself.
I see a high need for something like this, don't get me wrong, you know, this is something, like, we are a growing community. And within a growing community, there's uncomfortable moments that happen. And a lot of the uncomfortable moments are for those who are invested into the community. Change is hard. I mean, you've been through this probably 100 times. My job is to hear the citizens. Our job is to hear the citizens. So if we just, sorry for us to ask the hard questions, but it's, this is who we were asked to represent at the end of the day. If we were to table this tonight, just worst case scenario, if we were to table this tonight, we waited for your traffic study to come back. What does that mean for you? What does that mean for your company?
I guess I need to kind of confer with Terry on that, because if there is a situation where you're saying we could build this by right, and I could obtain a by right zoning letter for my application, then let's stop this public, this PDR process.
We don't want to chase this away, but what we want to do is just make sure we're doing our due diligence.
Yeah.
And we
That's
would do
fair.
the exact same thing for you if you were a citizen here.
Right.
So
And that would be the outcome though, is if we could get that zoning letter saying we have this right to build this by right, for our application purpose, then we could table this until we get the traffic study for future consideration.
But how would a traffic circle right there at the bottom there of that entrance where we have the light, how would that ease the flow of traffic? Would that have an impact on traffic moving in and out of this parking lot there where the light is now?
If it was a traffic circle.
Yes.
Yes, solely, well, I'm not a traffic engineer, so
Okay.
I'm gonna speak from my opinion here. So take that for what it's worth. But obviously without a light, it allows for the free flow of traffic versus having to back people up unnecessarily for one side versus the other. And secondly, if we had that roundabout and a right turn out of our current ingress spot, that allows people to go around the roundabout back down to the south if they need to. So that was my ultimate idea / solution there. But if it's off the table now on that roundabout, we need to.
Okay, so that's a project of the DOT, is that right? For a traffic circle there?
the DOT would change,
Exactly.
Okay.
It would
Now,
not
what-
be us.
Could they be lobbied to put a traffic circle there?
Well, that was part of our planned discussion with them about a right turn out there. We had thought that they were already thinking about one, so we're happy to kind of lobby for that as well. Like, how are we gonna solve this potential issue given the current?
And I just want to clarify that they did say traffic light for now, but that is still sort of fluid with DOT. They're about 60-75% plans, so some of those elements could still change. There's not a definite traffic light in the roundabout, but when I spoke to them, they said they were leaning more towards the traffic.
Because I think we should, find ways to resolve, because the biggest issue is the traffic. I don't think, that should hold up the big project. I think that the traffic becomes a part where we can at least try to remedy instead of, slowing up or killing the main project itself. If a traffic circle would ease this traffic flow, I think maybe we should look at that as well. So traffic can move, more fluently in and out of there. So it won't be the backup, that it will hold backing the traffic up into the parking lot. To me, that seems like one solution. I'm not a traffic engineer. I'm just a regular citizen concerned about it. So I think we could, if that would help, I think that we should look at that as well. You said it's not written in stone, the traffic light there per DOT. I think we should ask them about, changing that to a traffic circle, seeing what they could do. If we-
Fairfield Homes is more than willing to support that effort and discuss why that's a benefit, not only to the community, but to the project as well. But obviously, city support, community support there would go a long way, and they're out of our control too. We can propose the idea and lobby for it, but
state's gonna do what the state's gonna do. The best thing we can do is petition for our citizens. A roundabout will definitely slow down traffic more and back up traffic more. We're looking at a large amount of cars. There was one time I was exploring, looking at the billboard down here for our business on 401 right here. And there was an estimated count of like 6,000 cars that go through there a day. Okay, this is estimated, so please, an estimated of 6,000 cars per day that go through there. And I was like, well, okay, great. How many people look at the sign? Well, but we're dealing with a circle, we're talking with a traffic circle here, totally different. So even if we say today it's 6,000 vehicles, the way Louisburg is moving, by the year 2030, where our 3,250 residents, could very easily be 8,000, the way that the numbers are showing. How that affects all of us, is definitely, I think at the end of the day, I hear our citizens, it's not exciting, but I think this is truly the best option that we could face. Or otherwise, we could have a much larger building that could go in there, and the by right owns that. It's not an easy decision.
So we,
By any means.
I have to agree with you. Is there a way, Terry, that we as a council town, for our own due diligence, get just an engineer's report, police reports of that, not just right there, but of that whole area? Because there's a lot of accidents and a lot of traffic. Is there a way that we as a council can get our own due diligence and get a traffic analysis and police reports and look at that space just for us for future references?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. Well, it's question 9, because that doesn't help him.
Yeah, just for future references.
I have one more thing to say, and then I'll sit down. How many people live in that area? Raise your hand. These people, the ones who are sitting in the crowd, live in that area. I think, and if I'm not speaking for you, you can stand up and say so, but I think the majority of these people would rather have that than those townhomes in their front yard. And if you're saying that you approve this and then you back off of those townhome numbers, I think you wouldn't have a problem. But swallowing 70 townhomes in their front yard on a smaller lot than I live on in a single family home, no way that 70 townhomes and parking and a retaining pond and everything else can go back there behind that Harley seats.
I think what it does, ma'am, is it gives us options, is what it does. And, we owe the whys. We owe everybody that lives here the whys. This is good information for us to know that we have a little more of a restriction on what this looks like, so it doesn't impact. I agree with you.
Yeah, I mean,
think
we're
those-
not fighting this, we're fighting the whole thing. Like, you gotta take it a level at the time. But what they're trying to do back there with everything combined is what's causing the upset.
I appreciate your thought, and that's why I'm addressing it. So I look at that and I say, how does that look for the citizens? Because the front yard is one thing, adjacent to the lot
Is another.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It is a whole nother thing.
Well, I think the single building that we're talking and discussing tonight, we just have to wait and see, because DOT has to come in and say what they're gonna do with the highway. So we can't say how many cars can drive this and that. When I come off Karl here, if the turning lane, so I can go back down Dicker Boulevard, is filled up and I see a line of cars, I get over in the other lane so I can go straight and go through town and go to my house. It don't take a rocket scientist to tell you, you have to go to a light to turn. You might can go to a street, but when those cars start passing by you, you might be sitting there 30, 40 minutes sometime, especially at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So,
Sit there through 3 light cycles.
yeah, I know.
That's right.
And so that's why if I go off Karl here, I'll probably go around by the daycare and pick up that First Citizen Bank, that light, and go across to downtown so I can go up past South Bank.
And in our event, that's another car coming through our neighborhood
Mhm.
to
Well,
avoid traffic.
no, I'm not coming to your
just to
neighborhood.
avoid-
I'm coming on the Karl Road because my doctor's office is over there too.
Right,
and
but
then
I'm
I
saying
go
they
past
live
the
right
DMV.
there where you turn.
No, I don't turn and go down into those developments now. But, we just have to use common sense.
So,
The people are coming and we're still waiting for DOT to say what type of light roundabout or whatever is gonna go up. So, I mean, I thought we was coming here today to try to approve this. I mean, that's why I'm out here. And because you said the other people had withdrawn,
Yes, ma'am.
but have they tried to send anything in again?
Yes, they have. And
So they still want the same count.
they still want the same count, and so while we took a bit different paths to get there, I completely agree with this. And is that this is what we want here, this is what I'm hearing from what I've heard the opinion so far, and we do not want the townhomes. So it would be, to your point, Mr. Kingsley, it would be better for us to adopt this development first, now, and then we have a justification for denial of the higher density.
Yeah.
By right, I believe it was something like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Excuse me. By right, how many townhomes can they put back?
I believe it was in the twenties, mid-20s, I believe it was.
Yeah, but that was before they got the additional acreage. isn't it?
Right, but it
So it's
wasn't
probably
that
around
much, it wasn't that much acreage, it wasn't that much acreage to allow that anymore. It may be 27 to 30. By right, they could do 27 to 30.
So that's the
I'm pretty
only,
sure.
we can't do anything about that. If they want to
We can't
put
do anything
30
about it.
townhomes,
Correct.
they can
Correct,
go.
'cause it's by right.
But if they want to go beyond that, we have to say yes.
Correct.
At the end of the day, we're looking out for the best interest for the property values for the owners. And I think we're proving that, you know, in, to be defensive.
We never had objections to the 25.
Right. And I guess what I'm trying to say, sir, is that, you know, we're recognizing the challenges that are being faced to you for your hard-earned money that you've worked hard for your home. The home is always the biggest and typically the biggest value that somebody has for self-ownership. It's the largest investment.
Well, I've been there 50 years or more.
Yeah.
And not to be critical of the town,
I'm sorry, would you mind, just so we have your name on record? And
my name is Willie Mullins, I live at 119 Pinewood Circle. And my one concern with the town, I've lived there for 50 years. I've never seen them pave not one spot on my street. It's like riding through a cornfield most of the time. And the street down on Tanglewood on that end, if you pass another car, one of you is getting in the ditch. There's no other way to pass the car other than getting in the ditch. And nobody's improved not one thing. They built all those new houses, they dug up the street, so what? They dug it up and left it, and kept right on walking. And I go down Tanglewood, I'm like there dodging the hole and get in and out of the neighborhood. I mean, you know, infrastructure, building these apartments, these senior apartments would probably be a good thing. But if you don't improve the streets and the sewage and the ditches and all that stuff around it, you know, if you just sit 2 or 3 houses over in a damn pig pen, what have you got? You still got a pig pen. And we need to do something about the infrastructure over there. It's terrible. I mean, you go in over there, they got those bushes. Why they don't cut those bushes, I don't know. You can't see going down Sandalwood around that curve. You can't see around that curve. And if you slip one little bit and somebody's coming.
this is something that we could definitely take
Yeah.
into consideration.
But like I said, I don't think we have a problem with those. We have a problem with those other ones where they want to put 70 or 80 townhomes over on that little street. We have a problem with that, a big problem. Thank y'all.
Thank you, sir.
sir, you had something to say?
Three ladies first.
I'm Brenda Bailey, 405 Tanglewood Drive. I do have a question why this is labeled as 0 Tanglewood. Is the streets gonna actually meet on Tanglewood physically?
Okay.
Closer to Hazelwood than it is.
My second issue is if we are gonna survey the traffic in that area, especially for the other apartments, we need to put up a camera at the end of Dogwood Drive where it goes into Sandalwood and count the number of cars that do not stop at that stop sign. I have come through there very, very slowly because I see people are not stopping. And yet still, there's a lot of times I have to slam on brakes to keep from running into somebody that is not stopped at the stop sign. And then a couple of weeks ago, there was a guy coming up the other way by Karl fees, talking on his phone. When I got to Tanglewood, he turned right in front of me. I had to slam on brakes again and my truck skidded away. Something needs to be done about that issue, especially if we have more cars in that area. Thank you.
These kind of concerns are traffic and stuff like police presence and stuff like that. It's good information for us, but we really have to address tonight's subject, about this. We hear those are concerns to add to it. If we could talk about those possibly, I'm sorry to say that, is there any way that we could talk about this at the next meeting?
Yeah, because tonight is this senior apartment thing. This is the subject that we are having this public meeting about. Yes, perhaps maybe at another time we could do that as well.
I would encourage you to come back and share your concerns that you have when we have our regular meeting, so we can address them. Because there are dangers, and we want safety. We want you to be safe.
Mr. Salhart, you had something?
At some time in the past, I'm assuming that the orientation of the lot was front facing to Tanglewood. That's why it has the address 0 Tanglewood Drive. But to answer, no, the developer does not plan on connecting.
Well, that's where the entrance originally. I was gonna be right there in front of my house.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yep, that's one. Yep.
Yeah.
So it was oriented the other way in the past, but the developer does not have plans to connect the road to Hazelwood Drive.
Well, that's actually been a problem from the get-go. There's no plan to get out, just a way to get in.
And that was in response to the concerns we had in Tanglewood. We did not want traffic to flow back into Tanglewood. They would either have to exit at Wade or the next means of ingress there. I think Dogwood's done.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, everyone in attendance. First, I would like to recognize Gary Kennard with the Franklin Times with the article that he published on the 26th. Stating some of the concerns with the new development, the existing development, Fairfield LLC, just the concerns that we had. He has been in attendance for all the meetings and he has been very attentive. And he's covered a lot of bullet points for us. I'm just going to try to zip right through a recap of the first letter that I submitted because we have some new council members. I submitted a letter expressing our concerns for rezoning for Sandalwood on July 5th of 2025. And I just want to take the opportunity to just touch on some of those bullet points tonight. First, there was a reference to the safety concerns because we've got North Carolina Department of Motor Vehicles there with daily traffic piled up on the road. 3 healthcare providers, Advanced Community Health Clinic, Duke Health, and UNC Cardiology, Merit Care, Child Care, who is Kids Corner. We've got Farm Bureau over there, Hazelwood Apartments, and the road traffic coming off of 56 Highway. They're trying to avoid the light at Vicky Boulevard and Highway 56 with absolutely no adherence to the speed limit nor traffic signage. And maybe, I'd say 75% of those cars, they're the only car on the road and leaving the responsibility on the residents back in our neighborhood to avoid an accident. because they're coming, so we gotta stop, because they're gonna crash into our car if we don't stop. The Franklin County office is also in the Conley C's parking lot. We requested a traffic study from the Limited Liability Corporation, Traver Homes for Sandalwood. We requested that probably going on 12 months ago with no feedback. With the new proposal with Fairfield, which I'm in your corner 100% because that's what we need in town. Maybe a combined traffic study. If somebody could, put something together for that. But our infrastructure concerns remain the same. During my 37 years on Pinewood Circle, my husband said, we've just totally neglected in infrastructure. Total neglect. I mean, we've got potholes back there, just totally neglected. And the street repairs and potholes remain the same. Traver Homes stated at the meeting that we came to that their LLC had no plans to assume any responsibility for infrastructure repairs or improvements if they came in on the Sandalwood project. The streets are narrow. Even meeting sanitation trucks is difficult because a passenger car cannot meet them without veering off the side of the road. School buses are unable to make that turn at the end of Tanglewood and Sandalwood if there's an approaching car. And our property value concerns, Sandalwood project was not even close to being, even close to the character of our neighborhood. And it would absolutely impact our property values. The last meeting I attended, one councilman stated that they just couldn't see why that would impact our property values. That, quite frankly, is ridiculous. Sanitation is already a challenge with the town of Louisburg to support the scheduled pickups now, and the town of Louisburg has already experienced that. We've got draining and flooding concerns. Pinewood Circle is a cul-de-sac, one way in, one way out. In the event of something catastrophic, figuratively speaking, we turn into a sinkhole back there.
Miss, with all due respect, Ms. Muller, could I ask that you hold these comments to the next time we come, because we are, I know we having this meeting for discussion of the
I'm
senior.
working towards Fairfield LLC.
Okay.
I'm working towards it. Just give me just another
Okay.
minute. It's my understanding that the board shot down a proposal for the senior living development on Burke Avenue rather abruptly. Is that true?
They sound like it.
The reason that the senior facility at Burke Avenue did not pass was because there is not sewer capacity in that area of town.
Okay, that was my understanding. And that was due to the town's inability to adequately handle the sewage demands. Is that correct? Is that correct? Well, Burke Boulevard is an extremely inviting area. In immaculate condition the streets are, and it's an understatement to say that it looks like Hollywood Boulevard over there, their streets compared to the infrastructure over on Sandalwood and Tanglewood. And it would appear that the town of Louisburg has made minimal efforts and neglected its responsibilities to prepare for growth and development, pushing up 401 North. I worked the banking industry for 37 years, and it's been coming, and it didn't just start with this council. We've been knowing that for a long time, and it was totally neglected. So in turn, it seems as if rezoning the most congested area in the town of Louisburg is a ticket to maximum results with minimal effort and preparation for growth and development. And due diligence is critical. It doesn't seem as if that's no reflection on any of you because it's been coming for a long time. And we have, due diligence is absolutely critical in preparation. In closing, I'd like to thank Mayor Neal, Mr. Kingsley. They came up to our neighborhood and walked the property and talked to me and my neighbor Paul, who has since put his house up for sale and moved because he was unsure of the support that we might receive from the town because growth and development is inevitable. Fairfield LLC with the senior living apartments, I'm in total favor of that because we need that desperately. And the Traver Homes LLC project has just really cast a shadow and a web over our confidence that the town of Louisburg will stand behind us. And to Mr. Satterwhite, the lack of transparency that we've had, and we've been sitting on the fence here and there, back and forth, that's not giving us any, that doesn't instill any confidence in us about economic development moving forward. So I implore you to make a responsible decision when you vote to approve or disapprove the request. Developmental growth is important, but equally important is as the decision or the responsibility with consideration to the existing community. And it's also my belief or my understanding that the town of Louisburg has numerous zoning regulations. So it's really unimaginable that the town would even consider rezoning an area with the so-called townhomes on Sandalwood. This is a great project. What was your name? I'm sorry.
Joseph.
That Joseph has presented. But we can't understand why we want to be just sinking into the most congested area in the town of Louisburg. And I think everybody in the room tonight would agree that it is just totally congested there. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions? Okay. Okay, if not, no other questions from the council and the citizens. I'd like to make a motion to come out of closed session, public session. Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Go ahead. So,
Thank you, Mayor, members of council, citizens of Louisburg. Just want to make one more point that again, before deliberation, that our safeguard here is to employ conditions to approval. The conditions being that the owner agrees in writing that these conditions are sufficient for them. So I want to read them. The owner acknowledges that approval of this rezoning request by the town of Louisburg is conditioned upon the applicant's voluntary agreement to the PDR conditions presented, including the restriction that the sole residential use shall operate exclusively as an independent senior living facility, annual compliance certification, and that upon the expiration of their declaration and any extended use period, any change in use shall require an amendment to the master plan, meaning that they would have to come back before the town council to ask for additional uses. The only use that will be allowed is an independent senior living facility. And we have a amended motion. Did you have a motion? So the motion allows us to record this as approval is conditioned upon the applicant's voluntary agreement to the PDR conditions presented, including the restriction that the sole residential use shall operate exclusively as an independent senior living facility with annual compliance certification, and that the requirement that any change in use shall require an amendment to the master plan. The applicant will sign the first document that I presented, holding them to that agreement. And then this will be our motion, which solidifies the conditions of the rezoning. So I'd like to just make some changes here to that. That the sole Thank you, Mayor, members of council, citizens of Louisburg.
Chair, is that not the one I made copies of? When I got here?
Yes,
That's not the same one. Sole use.
Is that right?
yeah, I just made it, I just corrected it. It should say sole
Is that what
residential
you said?
use.
So to be clear, what you're asking, including the restriction that the sole,
Address that, just share that with me. Share that information with me. I will then relay that to the citizens.
These ladies just go to California. I have nothing more to say.
Okay.
I don't want to be redundant.
Okay. Now, what's that change that you, let me see that change that you made. Okay. Okay. You crossed out one sentence here, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that will not be in the motion as we read it.
Correct.
Okay.
And then the word sole residential use.
Okay. Okay.
Point of order, we need to come out of public session.
To vote, yes, I just wanted to make
He's
sure.
just going over.
Yes, we're going over.
So I move that we come out of public hearing.
Okay.
and I second.
Okay, it's been moved and properly seconded that we come out of public hearing back into our normal session. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Now, I'd like to get a motion from the council to see if we want to move forward with this amended ordinance for this this zoning amendment.
Mayor, can I see the copy of that? The adjusted copy.
I make a motion that we move the town council approval of the zoning.
Okay, you got to read this. You making the motion? Yeah, I need a motion, but you have to read this. You got the correction. There was a correction that he's making.
I heard when he was reading what he,
Okay,
okay, let's see.
So, Mayor, she wants to see what she's reading. So
okay.
to make sure she's got the same. It looks like restriction that the sole, residential, sole. And then when it goes to community, and then take out with age restricted occupancy, recording of an age restricted covenant.
Right.
Yeah, that, and then it goes back in with annual compliance.
Yep. Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. I move that the town council approve the zoning request RZ 2026-21 submitted by Fairfield Homes Incorporated to rezone approximately 9.37 acres located at 0 Tanglewood Drive from Highway Business B2 to Planned Development Residential PDR. Approval is conditioned upon the applicant's voluntary agreement to the PDR conditions presented, including the restriction that the sole resident use shall operate as an independent senior living community with the annual compliance certification and the requirement that any change in use shall require an amendment to the master plan. The request is consistent with the 2030 comprehensive plan South Beckett focus area, which supports mixed use development and higher density residential when based on a site specific plan. The request is reasonable in the public interest because it provides needed senior housing, enhances corridor efficiency, and aligns with the town's long-term land use goal. As a matter of the council recorded, The following motion was given to the town, March 30th, 2026.
You've heard the motion. Second. It's been moved and properly second that we will approve the amended zoning map for approval for the parcel of 015494. Business from business B2 to planned development, residential PDR. The area to the rezone is located at 0 Tanglewood Drive. Have the motion and properly second. All in favor, let it be known by show of hands. Thank you. All opposed? So moved. Thank you, council. Thank you. Okay. The approval of the consideration of the amendment. Now, the last thing on the
Move that we be adjourned.
yes. Thank you. It's been moved and properly second that we now adjourn. All in favor? All opposed? Thank you all.